Good afternoon, my friend. If you're watching this video, it's because you need yoga. Why do I say that you need yoga? Yoga is a form of movement that gets your body healthy. Why is that important? You've been dealing with high blood pressure, you've been dealing with inflammation, you've been dealing with arthritis, all these other things. And one way to address it would be with movement. So today I'm going to have a conversation with one of my mentors, Basu Netter Ong, and he's going to enlighten us, give us more knowledge on the benefits of a different type of yoga than what you're used to. We're talking about Samatawi, ancient Egyptian yoga. And so once he gets on and dives in, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper so that you can see and understand why you need yoga. And while we wait on him, let's get all the housekeeping out the way. How y'all feeling today? Drop a 1 in the comments if you're feeling fantastic. Drop a 3 in the comments if you need some upliftment. And collectively, we'll send you some love and light to help bring those spirits back up. But I told you, as you saw in the comments, why you need yoga. I can list 3 reasons. 1, boom. Words. 1 and 99 more. Oh, real, for real. Hello, good to see you. You as well. Good to be seen. All right, let's see what's happening. And Instagram wants to do its Instagram thing right now because I've accepted it and it's not working. So we may have to log out and log back in, but we'll see if we can get him in here. Let me add him. Okay, he's not even on, so maybe he logged out. For some reason, it's not picking you up. So log out and log back in to the live and then resend the request. So yes, I'm keeping you all in suspense because now that the real instructor is here, I'm gonna fall back into student mode and be one of you all as well. So there are 3 reasons, three reasons off the top of my head of why you need yoga. Reason number 1, is it reduces. Well, no, let's not even get to what it does. Boom, there he is.
Really?
So yes, we can definitely see you. We got you connected. So still 3 reasons. 1, most people don't move enough. 2, most people, when they do move, they only focus on cardio and they don't focus on flexibility. And 3, nobody's focusing on their spinal health. And that dives a whole lot deeper than what I normally get into because we got other issues to address before we get to the spinal health. But those are just 3 reasons off the top of my head. I can go a whole lot deeper. But now that the man of the hour is here, let's go ahead and give him his proper introductions. This is one of my mentors and Basu's, Batu Netter. He is the leader and founder of Yoga on the Beach here in South Florida for 25 years and running now. And the reason we're having this conversation today is he has a yoga certification coming up. But more importantly, it's time for you to understand how yoga can benefit you. And we're not just talking about the movements and the postures of yoga, but actually how implementing the principles into your life can help you in various areas. So that's everything. Appreciate you for taking the time and speaking with us today. So
Honor to be here with you, man. As always.
Appreciate it. So we start this off properly. How you doing? How you feeling today?
Feeling divine. It's the only way to be. You know what I mean? And in a world like this, where we are faced with as many challenges as we have, we want to stay in divine mode. You know what I mean?
Love that. Love that. I'm feeling good myself. Just up for myself. Just had a good conversation with my brother. Helped me remind some things about myself. That's why my eyes look a little weird, y'all. Yes, I was crying earlier. That's okay because crying is a way of release. But let's dive on in. With that being said, I figured today, as you may have saw in the title, we're going to talk about why they need yoga. And I left it general like that because I know we're going to dive deeper into Samaitawi and how that differs from the, and I'll say standard or Western yoga that most people are
Familiar
used
with.
to.
Mhm.
So first, let's give everybody who may not be familiar with what Samaitawi ancient Egyptian yoga is and how that differs from the standard yoga that they're used to.
Yeah. So um, things that come into the Western world have a way of losing their essence. Yeah. Have a way of often losing, the original intentionality of the said thing. And many people, they need, gurus from India. When they come to America and see what we call yoga, they're virtually flabbergasted, yeah, by what we call yoga, because most of us are completely underinformed by it, or we have just kind of a superficial, um, orientation to yoga, which, even if you follow YouTube, Instagram, your favorite yogis, uh, you know, it seems to be more about postures and posturing. Yeah? Who can do the freakiest posture out there? Who can, bend this and so on and so forth. And when we start to engage the conversation around what is ancient Egyptian or Kemetic yoga, which is my Taui in particular, or Sima Tao, which would be the term that you will actually see on the walls when you are referring to ancient Egyptian yoga. So that you wouldn't see Kemetic yoga on the walls, but you would see Sima Taui. And if you understand what you're looking for, then you know what you're seeing, if that makes sense. So the word yoga itself, in its Sanskrit origin, one of the biggest myths, that actually is not a word that means to stretch, even in its Sanskrit origin. It doesn't mean to stretch, doesn't mean to breathe, doesn't mean, um, to relax. None of these are what the word itself means. So the word itself is actually connected to the word yoke, right? To yoke, right? Which literally means to connect or to unify. Why is that critical? For most of us as human beings, particularly in the Western world, we live in a constant state of disconnection and disconnected. Disconnection from our natural environment. So you'll have people who work 30 years of their life and they've barely gone outside in that time because they've just been going home to work and home to work and home, right? So they forget that there's a whole world out here to be lived in. There's a whole world out here for us to experience that the divine creator placed in front of us to actually engage and to learn, right? To explore our purpose in being human. If I want to, our purpose is not to be human at all. That's a concept. We may get into that or not. But at the very least, how our purpose coming here is not necessarily related to the things we're doing. So, for instance, most people are focused on their job, right? I got to pay my bills. Well, the purpose in coming here into the world, you can talk to your career if you need to. Was I sent here to get a job at Walmart? So that's the reason why I'm on this planet in present terms. From the ancient perspective, the answer would be no. And the correct answer would be to Smai Tawi, right? Highest purpose in life. Smai, the Sima, it means the same thing that the word yoga means. This is how we know we're talking about the same thing. And in context, when you see the word yoga in the Sanskrit, you see the word Sima in the Kemetic, we notice that we're talking about the same things, the same system of processes that lead to connectedness. And the connection is that we are on a path, on a journey to reconnect with our divine personality, our divine self, the creator within us, the divine within us, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the conversation of yoga begins. And often in the Western world, that's where it ends, right? Meaning we're no longer focused on that. We're more focused on, like you say, the flex, and the health and well-being, which is powerful and significant. We're not going to take anything away from it, but it is a reduction because health is really a side effect of operating in from an optimum state of being. Does that make sense? And so when you do things to move into optimum state, that's what you're doing. And so we know all you have to do is look at ancient Egypt, and you can see through pyramids and temples that there are sciences and technology that they clearly were aware of, that we, even today, with our iPhones and everything, still haven't yet been able to really unravel how they did things they did. It implies that there's a level of human consciousness that we're not tapping into from where we are. So part of the reason or the difference between this yoga and what the others are doing is we're in a mode to attempt to reactivate that aspect of human consciousness or divine consciousness again, the kind of energy that allows us to do the extraordinary, the phenomenal, the kinds of things that leave an imprint on the planet 5,000 years into the future. So think about the way the world is now. Most of what we're doing right now as human beings will not last 1,000. Most of the houses we build will disappear. We don't have a legacy. And right now, what we're showing is, like when we go to the pyramids, when you go to unorthodox archaeologists or the ones who are not part of the mainstream, it has been shown that the pyramids have been underwater twice. Now, anybody who knows anything about Egypt knows that it's a desert, right? The chances of a pyramid that's 500 feet tall being underwater at all is virtually unfathomable. And you have to say, at what point in history was this not a desert, right? And apparently you have to go back to that period, and then you have to go back to another cycle and period when that happened before that. So conservative estimates says, according to one of my teachers, Wayne Chandler, I'll give him a shout out here, we're talking a minimum of about 36,000 years, right? So all the numbers, all the concepts that we're using, that we say that, Kemet is 5,000 or 3,000 or whatever, all that is guesstimation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because I don't want to cut your wisdom, but I also want to tighten it in a little bit. So what I'm hearing you say so far is that one of the major differences between Samatawi, ancient Egyptian yoga, and what we know in the West as yoga is Western yoga just connects you to your body, whereas this practice is more intention on connecting you to your higher self and the parts of you that you may not have explored yet.
Absolutely. Well said. And I would say it does connect you to your body, but it does it in a
that too.
Right.
And the other part, and that's why I say, because I think that's the distinction that you were talking
Absolutely.
about with the Western approach is, yes, you are connecting to your body, but you're just connecting to your body. So yes, you're going to get the blood pressure, the better inflammation, and all of those things. However, it's missing the connection to the higher consciousness of yourself, which gives you the opportunity to then expand
right
what you're doing with your body and
That's
your
correct.
and your brain.
And your mind. That's correct. 100%. 100%. So you're right on point. So we are interested, really, as Smytalians, if you will, we are interested in the science of human perfection, right? And so the exploration is into our deeper selves to really discover who and what it is that we are, right? Are we just what, people say? I'm not just, Thomas Jones, born in Mississippi, and is that the totality of who I am?
Right.
Or is there something deeper? And when I tap into that something deeper, do I essentially make Thomas Jones from Mississippi something more? Right? So this is about exploring, human potentiality. This is about those who understand, what was called the mysteries, right? They said the Egyptian mystery schools. And the mystery is who you are has not been well defined in the world that you live in. And to the extent that you bought into the complete idea that just who you are, gender-wise, racially, nationally, etc., the totality of who you are is the totality of the limitation that you have actually embraced or imposed on yourself or allowed others to impose on you. And this is a quest to liberate ourselves from all impositions, from all the things that have been imposed on us, right? Whether that's the way we eat, whether that's the way we, move, obviously, whether that's the way we think, that's the way we think about politics, life, what is possible in humanity, what is real. Like we have to begin to challenge all our assumptions about these things to really step into our power, which is the real question at hand is how powerful are we really? And how do we tap into that power, right? Because the average human being knows there's something more to them. Like they know, if you ask them and say, listen, do you think there's something more than just what you're manifesting, just what you're expressing, just how you show up in the world? Do you think there's something more to you than that? Deep down inside, I would bet that each of us feels that deeply, but
intrinsically,
but has no outlet for activating, going in and doing that. And what has happened is our, Shamsu Aku, our venerated ancestors, the enlightened ancestors of ancient Kemet, put together the priesthood, put together a system, right? Now, obviously, these were people who themselves were deeply involved in unraveling these mysteries and decided that they would decode that and leave a blueprint for those to follow. So the pyramids are just signs to remember mysteries. So power is not even in the pyramid itself. The pyramid is just a statement, a testament of the power of what the mysteries are.
Right.
The mysteries are the true. So that's why, for instance, you'll hear Christians pray and they'll say, "Thy will be done on earth as is in heaven." Right? You've heard that before, I'm sure. Right? Well, in the Kemetic tradition, we see that pyramids are actually the model, physical model of star, meaning they are aligned up with star systems. So when you look at the pyramid complex and system, complex in Kemet, looking down on those things is actually looking up. Right? So this gets into what they call the Hermetic principles, the 7 laws.
Duality.
As above, so below, right? But I'm saying that's not just a poetic expression of a prayer in the Kemetic. It's actually real. Like you actually, right? Everywhere you see something, it has something to do with the cosmos, with the heavens. Heaven has come to earth. This is what we mean when we say there's a higher quality of existence that we're not tapping into right now because we're more focused on tariffs and those kinds of things as the be-all of existence.
And so to bring it around again, so what I'm hearing you say is one of the main benefits of practicing this form of yoga is that it allows you to unlock your hidden potential. And because you said so much that I can go back and try to unpack all of it, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna hit the parts where that really matter. Because I know that for myself and experiencing the others that have gone through the practice and use the practice, they typically end up cleaning up how they eat.
Absolutely.
As just a frame of what they're doing, because now they're connected with their body, and it's like, okay, I'm not able to move like I want to move. Okay, what's keeping me from moving the way that I want to move? Maybe it's the food, because the food is causing the inflammation, or the lethargy, or the high blood pressure, and on and on and on. And so, just being able to use these movements and the principles to reconnect to yourself and the greatness that is there to be unlocked.
Indeed. Absolutely. So I'll go a little, I'll bring it home a little bit and say that the there's a hidden name of the course, right? Meaning when we promote it as Smaitawi Egyptian Yoga certification. When you come into the course and you actually sign up, you actually discover that it's actually called Black Genius Sema Kemet Yoga certification, right? Mm-hmm. And so we talk about it. So that word genius becomes a pivotal word in this construct because a couple of things. One, I years ago, I had, introduced this concept of Black genius to somebody, and from the continent, from Congo actually, and he disagreed with me about the concept of Black genius because he said that if you just limit it to Black, then what about nuclear physics and mathematics and all these great scientists and science that have evolved and that kind of thing, but that is true genius. And I'm like, well, if you actually know, that all of those things actually came from Black genius.
Right. All of those are derivatives of.
Yeah, exactly. And so what happens now? So I discovered, right, and I won't tell the whole story, but I discovered one of the most powerful definitions of genius that you can find. And it shocked me because I spent years of my life actually studying like psychology, learning, genius, those kinds of things because I flunked high school. That's a story for another day. But I tell you, if you really want to succeed in life, you want to flunk high school first and then be motivated to try to make up for the difference. So people who are now because you're motivated, right? The person who passed, they're like, man, I'm good. I got you that. And the person who flunked it, and high school is not that hard, right? So if you flunk in high school, you special. I mean, you is special. You know what I mean? It's not college, it's not PhD, it's not whatever. High school, oh, you special. Luckily, I was a great athlete, and that's the whole story for another day. So don't worry about me. I did all right? But I got into the study of genius, and so years I was looking at things related to that, and then I got so obsessed that I had to ban myself from bookstores. I don't know if there's anybody else like that. Like, if you want to see me go broke quickly, just put me in a bookstore because I'm coming out of there with some books. Like, you got to be a pretty bad bookstore for me not to. It's probably not possible. It's not in my experience, right? Any bookstore I go to, and then if I go to the black bookstore,
you're gonna find something.
And if I go to the black bookstore, forget about it. Like, just forget about it, right? Just forget about it. I just pull out all the money I have and put it on the table and be like, listen, I'll be back.
What can I get? What can I get for this?
I'll be back with some stuff. I'm paying you in advance. You know what I mean? So I literally banned myself from bookstores out of a few years, but at a certain age, because I'm like, this is crazy. I got books stacking up. Not that I don't love books, but it just became a thing. And so I banned myself. And then one day I was forced to go to the bookstore. There's a brother by the name of Rike, and I know you know the brother I'm talking about, Brother Rike in South Florida. And one day I was just riding with him, and he said, yeah, I got to run over here. And we ended up at a bookstore. And not even the end of a bookstore. It's a bookstore in Fort Lauderdale. It's right on the water. I think it's Barnes & Noble. So, it's beautiful. It's like 3-story. It's like one of the biggest bookstores you'll ever see. It's on the water. It's like everything for those who love bookstores, this is, and people like me, this is actually like a terror. It's like, no, this can't be happening. Why do I find myself here? So I ended up going in, and to make a long story short, I'm browsing everything, and there was a whole section on like learning and psychology kind of thing. And there was a book on genius, and I opened it up, and it said that genius is the art of making the uncommon connection. And literally, it shot through me like a light. At one, because the years I'd studied genius, I had never conceptualized it like that. It's like thought it's like you being an expert at something, you doing really well on IQ tests, all the kind of standard ways we tend to think of it. I'm like, uncommon connection. What's the big deal about making an uncommon connection? How is that genius? How is that whatever? And then I realized that a lot of the work that people have been doing over the years in our community, i.e. the melanated community, Black community, African community, indigenous community, etc., was to make uncommon connections, right? So everything in this culture pushes us away from ourselves, towards
ideals, for lack of that are anti our own self,
Right.
certainly our own culture. So
Yeah.
just to give you a context.
It's almost it's assimilation without assimilation.
Right.
They want us to
So,
assimilate without being assimilated,
so
for
and,
lack of a
and,
better way of putting it.
and it actually manifests in a lot of different ways, right?
Right.
So it manifests in what Dr. Umar calls the snow bunny crisis. No offense on anybody who's snow bunny
Right.
fan or anything. I'm just saying, like, he talks about us. There's an aspect of it, maybe not in every context, that does relate to like self-hatred, because you're being pushed towards not liking this and liking everything else that is created by other things. And so at the point at which people begin to Sankofa, stop and go back and fetch what we lost behind, something interesting starts to happen, right? You begin to move in a counter direction to what the world is pushing you towards. And to me, one of the ultimate places you can get to in that consciousness is the place called Kemet. Because just to prove it to you in simple form, why is Kemet so important? Most of us right now, a big part of our struggle in life is financial. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I'm talking about our community.
Yeah.
Right? Now check this out. Anybody who has $1, I want you to turn that dollar over and tell me what you see on the money. Kemet is on the money. Right? So why is Kemet on the now? Let me ask you a question. Do you think these folks take their money seriously, or they just play games with it? Do you think they're going to accidentally put ancient Africa on the money, unless it means everything? Like, what are the chances be? Yeah, imagine you went to China and you saw like French fries, or you went to France and you saw pepper steak on the money. Wouldn't you be like, what the hell? How did that get there? So we're talking about uncommon connections. Yes, that's what we said. Genius is the art of making uncommon connections.
Right.
Point is, Kemet, for people who are making uncommon connections in our community, is one of those key civilizations that unlocks the mysteries, particularly I would say the mysteries of blackness. Right? Now,
Okay.
this
And
is
so, and because I don't want to, I love your wisdom, and I never want to cut it. I want to reel it in
sure.
so that we don't lose people on the original. How is that tying people back into themselves?
Aha. So we said the genius is the art of making the uncommon connection. Right? So for the average person, connecting to themselves don't even make sense because they feel like they're already there. Yeah. When you start to involve a certain type of practice, you begin to unravel who the self really is. And what happens is you begin to understand that the self that you thought was you all along, in many ways, was an imposter.
So through the practice, you began to peel back the layers that you've adopted as identity that are not truly your identity, which then allows you to make space for your true self, who already is healthy, who already is wealthy, who already is able to co-create.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Well said. And so when we said, this is Black Genius certification, what we're saying is anybody who makes that connection, right? You said the difference, that this is different from the other yogas. Anybody who can make that connection, can see it in their minds, can feel it and resonate. And I'm not even necessarily speaking in racial terms per se, although it has deeper resonance, of course, for people who understand that dynamic, who live in Black skin. It has deeper meaning for you, but there are other, it's for everybody, because it's literally, I mean, it's so in unraveling who you are, you literally kind of, especially through a Kemetic lens, you tend to unravel the nature of the world itself. So a lot of the machinations and programs and all of a sudden the illusions become crystal clear to you. So even though you're just talking, doing a personal practice, the impact it has is that it helps you to see the world as it is. and there's nothing more
So,
powerful.
and in hearing you say that the way that you did, the image that came to me is the moment where they unplugged Neo from the Matrix and he had to come to terms with there being the artificial world and the newer real world.
Mm.
And so that though, however, and in doing so, he was able to master,
Yep.
knowing that he was in the simulation, he was able to master the construct of the
Yeah.
simulation to be able to
Exactly.
dodge the bullets, take them out, all of that good stuff, bend the spoon type situation.
Excellent.
So let's
I'm,
we didn't got super high level, and I'm not gonna say we went off in the left field, but I want to draw it back in because I know a lot of people in my audience are looking for ways to improve their health, to
Indeed.
be a better version of themselves, and so I know like that's one of the reasons why I'm going through the certification for myself because I've been practicing for 10 going on 11 years now, and that integration for me is one thing. But now I want to implement it and integrate it with my client so that they're able to see it. Because I put some of the postures and the movements in some of my workouts, but I've never taught the principle side of it. So that's one of the reasons I'm going through the certification so that I can learn the principle and integrate them deeper for myself, but also be able to help someone else integrate it. So the title that I put this is why you need yoga.
Sure.
So we've already said one of the reasons that they need yoga is to be able to connect with their true self, the self that's been hidden from them. What's another reason? And let's keep it as practical as possible.
Indeed. And that's a good point because part of my personal struggle is that the way I was taught was so mystical, bringing it down to practicality, if you want to use that term, is a lot more complex than it appears because of what you just the story you told about the illusion versus reality.
No, absolutely.
Once we figure out it's an illusion, it's kind of different to say what are you doing illusion. No, I'm getting there. I'm going to ask you questions.
I don't want you to be constrained with that. Keep doing what you've been doing, and I will continue to translate the best way that I have because I think that's one of the dynamics that we've always had well together is me taking your high level and putting it into, I'm not going to use the word simpler, words that are more digestible.
More digestible. I agree, and that's a beautiful thing. So if I could keep it simple, right? So the simple thing, one of the key things that is really simple that this type of yoga does is it anchors you in inner peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, for many people,
I want you to say that. I want you to say that again because the phone, like, I don't know if they heard it all the way in the back.
Right.
This practice anchors you in inner peace.
Indeed.
And that is something that most people strive for and never are able to attain because of the noise of the world.
Indeed. So, and this is critical because the irony of life is that the way people think of peace in, culturally in the West is almost as if it's a weakness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Almost as if you're peaceful, you're not active enough, you're not doing anything, you're not whatever. Peace from the spiritual perspective is actually a place of power. So when in the psychologists, they talk about the flow state, right? When they talk about peak performance, right? And they talk about the importance of being in a state where you're not thinking, not whatever, you're just being, right? And you're in the flow. And we've had great examples of that. The best athletes when they're on their game and they're just locked into what it is. It's almost like effortless for them, like their experience of what is happening, even though to the outside mind, you're like, man, that's impossible what you did. That shot was crazy. Steph, you shot from half court. For them in that moment, because they're tapping into something, it's effortless. Peace is your place of power. Now, that's very difficult to get to and understand in a context where so much agitation is the law of the day, right? We believe that last time we mentioned, I was telling somebody as a joke, the only time a fight almost broke out in my certification was when I was in New York, right? And I'm like, in the room, it's like, there's so much energy that people are used to, like, if you look at me funny, you know what I mean? Something's going on. So I need to be like, yo, son, like, yo, what's good? What? I'm like, hold on. This is yoga. As opposed to doing that, can we just breathe? Even if you look at me funny, just take a deep breath in. Breathe. All right? Peace, be still. Right? Be still and know that I am. Right? The book. So peace is actually your place of power, and the world around is doing everything it can to keep us away from that state of peace.
Yes.
And
I'll add to that. And this is just me adding my own personal story in because it's something, because the fact that you brought it up, me and another one of my homeboys been talking about this with regularity. I'm no longer looking for joy in life. I'm not looking for happiness. I'm looking for peace, because peace is unshakable. Joy can be taken away. Like joy is one of those feelings. Like, because if there's joy, there's sadness. If there's happiness, there's anger. But peace, there is no opposite to peace.
yeah,
Except for unpeaceful.
right.
But who?
So yeah, you could say that either you're going to live in peace or you're going to be in pieces, right? And that's where most of us are challenges, because we're fragmented. We're literally, and the peace is what allows for the wholeness to come back into play.
So. And so all of this is like, I'm integrating this conversation as we're speaking, and I'm just thinking about the turmoil that I'm in my personal life. And even though this is why I'm going through the certification, I've been practicing and still complete with the complete integration. I have been in pieces, and that's where the disconnect with some of the moves that I've been making or the feelings that I've had because you know my story more, like, and my audience knows a lot of my story, and soon to come, you will know all of it.
Indeed.
Just soon to come. We got 16 days.
All right.
And then I can divulge the entire situation.
So,
but yeah. So it's I'm just saying. So I can see why I've been so disconnected, because I haven't been in peace. My energy's been so lost, because it's been going in different directions instead of moving from that groundedness.
also, so I'm going to add, so the anchored in inner peace, that's one practical thing. Like if you can be peaceful in the most stressful of conditions, you have won a huge battle, right? Huge battle, because stress is designed to do something to us and usually take us out of ourselves, way out of ourselves.
Right.
That's why sometimes when people are stressed out, you don't even recognize who you're talking to. Like, that's not even you, right? You become somebody else in the process. The second thing I would say is, and I would attribute it particularly to the style of this system that we have, is it activates self-healing. So now here's the thing that a lot of us are not told as we get into diet and health and so on and so forth. One of the things that most of us don't know is that the body is self-healing.
Yes. And we talk, my audience does know that, because we talk about it all the time. Because I use the example of, if you cut your hand, you never have to think about it. It heals itself as long as you keep it dry and clean.
Exactly. So the body is self-healing. The system that we have, we have a module where we talk about postures that heal the body. So if you have even specific ailments, if you do certain postures, so for instance, if somebody comes to me and has high blood pressure, right? Typically, I just need 30 minutes with them. No pills, no medication, no whatever. Now, there are different ways to do that as well. I mean, there's some herbal ways you can do that in about the same amount of time. But the point is, I don't even need 30 minutes. Really, 15 could do it, right? So imagine you have now at your fingertips a system that allows you to do that. A family member says, I have this problem, and you can resolve it, right? You have some issue, and you can resolve it. Well, this is what this system
that actually not only takes, and why it's different from cardio, is, of course, the breath, right? So moving with breath. So the breath is indicative of the spirit, right? It's the same breath that you're breathing is the same breath I'm breathing. So we know that whatever we call great spirit or God or whatever, that thing is what's keeping you going. Yeah.
Right.
So there's a technology to optimizing your relationship with that breath. Yeah. And so most people, the way stress works, the first thing it attacks is the breath. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when we move the body in conjunction with the breath, we change the circulatory dynamics of the body. We allow for blood to go into areas, and with that, the resources that are needed to heal certain areas are, again, this activates the natural healing processes in the body. What do you think happens when you have a system like that and you begin to practice that once a week, twice a week, every day, so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your connection to health totally changes. I tell people my biggest meal of the day is yoga. Yeah.
My biggest meal of the day is yoga.
Right. Because when you look at nutrition, and like 80% of our nutrition comes from the air, right? Unless you're not breathing properly, you might have to get your nutrition somewhere else. But we talked about this last time when you said you can go 40 days without food, 7 days without liquids, but 4 minutes without
4 minutes without air. Yep. No, that is wow. So you said so much that I can unpack and go back in and tie back into the things that I normally preach, because I don't know if I've ever shared my 6 pillars of health with you, but my 6 pillars of health are detoxify your life, optimize your nutrition, optimize your fitness, optimize your hydration, optimize your life with quality sleep, and the final one is to de-stress your life and to mitigate the stress that you don't have. And so one of the first things you said and this is connecting back to the inner peace, when you have inner peace, now your cortisol levels are lower, which means now your body's not storing fat correctly, which means now your metabolism can work functioning. Your ghrelin and your leptin are on, so now your hunger is at the right levels, and now you're not craving the food that are salty, sugary. So I'm tying everything back into the way that they normally used to hear me talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
And then on the second level, with it being self-healing, now we're talking about removing, because we detoxified our life, because we're removing the negative foods, the processed foods, and now we're giving the body more oxygen and more movement. So now there's more opening of blood flow. So now there's more absorption of the nutrients that you're eating. And now there's better mitochondrial function, because now your body is able to move better than it was before. So using energy different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, there's the movement is life. Yeah. Like if
Absolutely.
you go anywhere, if they want to identify it as life, they're going to look for movement. Right. So the more you can, this is why the flexibility and all that is actually important in yoga and all that kind of stuff, because the more you increase the range of movement, literally the better the energy can flow throughout the circuit, throughout the whole circuit. Right. So there is a deep connection between moving, and then, like I said, there's movement that I would consider, like you say, fitness, and then there's one that I say is like healing. And the yogic movement is more now when you want to activate the healing aspect. You need both, by the way, because you need to
absolutely. I'll say you need both. I'll pause you there. You need both. However, you can turn this into a strength and fitness portion of it as well.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we talk about that in the trend. But yes, you're absolutely correct.
Because there's a difference between moving through the postures and actually activating your muscles through the posture.
Right.
Because flashbacks. All right, I'm back.
Indeed. So good. So all of this are some of the benefits. And what I would say was interesting, I'll give you a kind of a sidebar, but what's interesting to me is that, obviously I've committed to this as a lifestyle. So this is what I do every day. I do have days where it doesn't flow the way I want it to, so I end up doing it later in the day or earlier, depending on what's going on. But it's for me, it's been an everyday thing. I would say over the last 25 years, if I've missed a month in total, that would be a lot. Yeah. So it's a general thing for me. Now, in that process of committing my life to it now, I notice that the healing that occurs happens on multidimensional levels. So for instance, I had a certain type of trauma as a child.
Okay.
Let me see if I can tell my story. So I try to not go too far with it. But I had a trauma as a child, and what I would say is it prevented me, because sometimes traumas will stop you, will condition how you relate to things. If you've been traumatized, that people, it just shapes the way you react to things. And I had some very negative reactions to certain things. And what I would say is, over the years, without me consciously attempting to heal that trauma, I noticed that I just got better and better and better and better. That's until it just wasn't there. So now the thing that was the huge trigger, so the people who know me before I started yoga would say that I'm very like a angry type of personality.
You were the atypical angry black man, because we've had this conversation before.
Right. And then the people who see me now have seen like a huge transformation in that regard. Right. I almost never get upset, but boy, you probably figured out the magic
it's hard pressed
combination
to see that switch, to see that flip switch.
Indeed. So, but generally speaking, I'm all right and good. So that's the other thing. And then what's another benefit for those who want to get certified that I discovered by accident? Because to be honest with you, when I did my training and certification, I really did not want to be a teacher. Yeah. I am somebody who's committed to being a practitioner, but at the time I thought it was crazy to try to teach people comedic yoga. Like I'm like, there's nobody going to embrace something like that. That's like way out there in most people's mind. So, so when my teacher came and said, "I'm doing a certification. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Sure." And I did it, but I did it purely because I just wanted to do it for myself. Unfortunately, they had a feeling that there were some people in the class that didn't want to teach. Yeah. So they decided, they said, "Listen, here's what we're going to do. We are not going to certify you unless you start a class." Yeah. And so I felt set up, right? I'm like, oh, I'm from the streets, man. Like, you can't run one on me. And how do these spiritual folks run one on me? Like, that's crazy, So long story short, I went into a study group that I was a part of, the Kepler study group. And I said, we always talk about ancient Egypt and stuff like that. What if we started to test it and see if the culture has any impact on our lives? Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't be nostalgic about Kemet. Like, it's cool that these things are there, but we shouldn't be caught up in that for no reason. Like, we have real issues in our lives today, and if it doesn't help us today, we should discard it. Of history, right? So I'm not attached to it. If it's not valuable for where we are, what's the point? So anyway, they agreed, and I started a class. And in order to save money, I decided I would not go to a community center or a studio and rent or a school. I decided I would just go to the beach. Yeah. So the very first class that I ever started was the yoga on the beach, which became known as Yoga on the Beach. It grew and grew and grew, and has been running now for 25 years. By the way, I don't know another yoga teacher on the planet who can say that the first class they ever started never stopped.
It's still going.
And still going. I don't know another yoga teacher. And I think that's a testament to the system and what it's doing. But what I would say on a deeper level, the other opportunity, there's a power that comes with teaching that is very, I don't know how to say it, but if you want to master something, teach it. Yeah. You want to learn something, study it. You want to master it, teach it. Right? So there's this quandary in the circles of master teachers where they say you shouldn't let somebody teach something until they become a master of it. Right? And I'm like, the way they become a master of it is by teaching.
Like, how do you, that is so, as tail backwards as you can get. You cannot master a thing without having first taught it, because there are aspects of it that you don't understand until you teach it, and you have to explain it to somebody in a way that they can understand it, because it's different than how you understood it.
And so when I became somebody who had the capacity now and authorization to certify people, I knew that, and I said, no, I want to create teachers. So this certification will focus on 3 aspects. You as a practitioner, spiritual practitioner, right? Then we develop you as a teacher. We make sure you're proficient at teaching a class, enough for you to start teaching a class, and your evolution will grow from there. And then the third thing we work on, we call it you as a yogipreneur. So where we're different from other courses, and where I'm different, is I think that anything that we're using for our spiritual, mental benefit, we could also use for our economic liberation as well, because they're connected. They're very much connected in this society, except we tend to disconnect them. Try to put our spiritual side over here, and then the economics, what you do for. And we say we can bring them together, and we can bring them together in a way that allows you to use a system that actually is helping people to activate their genius, their self-healing, their inner peace, all these qualities that our community needs deeply right now, and the world needs deeply, to be really frank with you. Right. And so what makes this special is we have within the certification, why you need yoga, is we actually give you a blueprint on how to make $50K a year as a boss. So we lay that out, and we say, here's what it would take. Here's what needs to happen. Here's what you have to do. Now it's up to each person to decide if they want to do it or not, and to what extent and how far they want to go with it. But at least you have it. It's there.
Right.
It's in your hand. So the other component in this particular system is we are very much helping you build a business with this, market this, and people who know me know that I support my people. So it's not like you come and you get trained and I'm like, peace, thanks for the money, appreciate you, let me know how to work. You know what I mean? Hopefully I never see you again, kind of thing. I literally have people calling me it's one of the things in my relationship. My wife is like, they call you at 2:00 in the morning. Some boss is calling you like, Boss Long, I need, how can I do this? I've been struggling with this. They're up late at night trying to figure it out. And I do answer those calls. So this is a commitment to the community of people who are ready to take on a path like this. And what I would say is that there's a huge benefit in that. And then the other secret of yoga that we don't often talk about, but we said it in the beginning, but we need to understand how that applies practically. We said that yoga is connection, right? Yoga is the art of connection, connecting the mind, the spirit, body, connecting with the self. Now here's, at a certain point, you realize that divine power, if you will, is an expression of who you're connected to. So just to give you an example, right? If you're somebody listening right now, and let's say you say, oh, I'm broke, right? And you go outside and you meet somebody. This person likes you, loves you, and all that kind of stuff. And that person is a billionaire, right? Wouldn't your whole life change just because of the connection? Just because of the connection, right? So in other words, I'm giving you like a practical kind of way of thinking about the power of yoga connection. So what happens, and what I've realized, is that the people who come through our certification are very powerful people who are opening to their own power in many ways. What do you think happens when they start to connect with each other? Mm-hmm. And so we've created a whole community of interconnected people around the world, by the way. So people from Germany to Jamaica. So, I'm able to do retreats in Jamaica. I'm able to do things I wouldn't normally be able to do simply because of who I connect. Your connection. Because of the connection.
But they always say your network is your net worth. And so now this is just an added benefit to the certification process, is because who it connects you to. And I can speak and I can attest to that because, again, I connected with the brother through a connection of other people. And then when I realized who he was, it was like, it's even better because the person who originally was my original Basu was one of his original students.
Indeed.
And so just that interconnection
absolutely
is crazy. And yeah.
Yeah.
It
And so,
gets it gets deep. And other basus are people that have connected with without having connected with them. And it's the way that all of these different connections have cycled through, because even the thing with Marquel and all of that, it's been,
it's been
yeah,
crazy. But I tell you, it was fascinating because, you know, I tell you, I didn't start this to be a teacher at all.
right.
I was forced into teaching. That's number one. And I didn't think that it would be a business at all. And I wouldn't say I was forced into making money from it, but pretty close, because when I started teaching on the beach, the class grew to about 40 to 45 people a week would come out to the free class that I had. And my first private client was somebody who came to the class and said, I love what you're doing, but I can't hear you. It's 40 people on the beach. The wind is blowing and all that. So I'm in the back trying to hear you. I'm like, well, sorry about that. And she says, well, can you come to my house and do this there? I mean, yeah, sure. Say that. I show up at the house, give her a yoga session, boom, right? Roll up my mat, about to go. She's like, how much you gonna charge? I'm like, charge you for what? She was like, well, you know, you just gave me a session.
Private session.
A private session. Yeah. You're like, yeah, okay, cool. She's like, no, you got to charge me. I'm like, no, I really, you know, it really wasn't. You asked me to do it. I came to do it. I did it. You good? I'm good. She was like, no, you can't do it. Right? So this lady literally like sits me down. I was like, no, you can't be doing stuff like this, bro. Like, this ain't gonna work. Right? So if y'all come to see me now and I charge you, don't blame me, blame her. Right? Just go back to her and be like, yo, you the reason. You gonna do it for free. But you had to tell him, you had to educate him that he has some value. That's crazy. So she says, okay, you got to give me a price. So in my head, I'm thinking, you know, if she gives me $5, this is like in early 2000s. So if she give me $5 for gas for coming here, I win. I'm good. So I think I said like 20. You know, just the negotiating side of me, they always ask for more than you expect to get, right? So just shoot it out there. 20. She said 20. I said 10. You know, just give me 10. That's cool. She said, I tell you, I'll go ahead and I'll give you what I think it's worth. Sure. To me, if she gave me $1, I won.
Right.
Because I won anyway. Like, I just came there to do the thing for her. Right? She came back and she gave me $60 for an hour, my friend. And this was like early 2000. That's when I was like, I never thought I could make money doing
$60 an hour.
I ain't never
Right.
made $60 an hour at that point in my life. I'm 25, 24, but I ain't never made 60 in an hour. I didn't even think that was possible for me, and I didn't even think it was possible in yoga. I definitely didn't think nobody in yoga was going to do that. I'm saying this story to let you guys know, those who are interested in it, that's a whole different paradigm that's open to you, that we share with you in the course, that is significant. Now, we don't do anything for money. Don't get it twisted. However, we do understand that it is important for there to be value exchange in the work that we're doing. Yeah? Because what happens sometimes is that people do not reciprocate the energy that you're giving. And that, from a comedic perspective, is not my eye. So we want to be careful, and we want to guard against the takers of the world, the people who are just around you to take. Because you can
Get drained.
Get drained, be depleted, because that's all that's happening. But there are people who understand the nature of the world and understand intuitively that it's a law of give and take. If I give you something, you know what, I can, right? And so there are always ways to work that out. So I just want to leave that on the table for those who are interested in certification, because I think that's important.
Let's summarize. So the three benefits of why you need yoga is: one, is going to help you connect with your higher self and your inner self. Two, it's going to help you find and ground yourself in inner peace. Yeah. And three, it's going to promote the body's natural ability to self-heal. So that's by joining the yoga certification, you're going to walk away with three things: an in-depth knowledge of how to use the practice for yourself, how to teach the practice to others, and then how to use the practice to generate income if you so choose.
That's 5 things. But yes, indeed.
Well, no. So like you get, like, so the practical benefits of doing the practice of yoga are the
Sure.
first three.
Indeed.
And then the other three are what you're going to actually walk away from if you decide to do the certification. So
Well said.
if any of this stuff makes sense for you, the comment's been there below. Comment the word cert, and I'll send you a link to join the free workshop that Ned or Ankh is going to put on that explains this more in depth, more about the practice, more about the certification process, and all of that good stuff. And please remind me of the date because I'm horrible. The
The
certification
19th of
begins
June,
July.
Thursday, the 19th of June at 8 o'clock.
That's when the workshop is. When does the actual certification begin?
This actual certification begins July 27th and runs
Because
until
I need to put,
November 15th. Yeah.
because I need to put that on my calendar now so that I don't forget.
And I tell people all the time, some people say, oh, I got time. No, you don't. Yeah. You want to get in now because now's the time you can negotiate. Now's the time you need to work out a deal. Now, with last minute, now you come in as you come. I don't have time for that.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And just a little, I guess, foreshadowing for those that decide to join this certification process at the same time I am and coming through me, you are going to get a different price than what other people are getting. So just to give you a little, just to give you a little bit of teaser of why it's a benefit to comment the word certification and learn about it through me, because there is going to be a significant investment that you get to save by doing that way.
Wow.
So and you get to go through the certification with me. So any troubles or hiccups you got me going through it with you to help, you know what I'm saying, lean on a little bit.
For sure.
So I appreciate it. We are going to do 2 more of these before the actual workshop. So if you missed us this time, go back and watch the replay because I'm going to put it up. But also you have another opportunity. And in one of those, I'm actually going to open the floor to you so that you can ask questions of myself and Ankh about what you think about yoga and all these other things. And if the young ladies who's on here who asked about calisthenics, I think calisthenics is great. It is another way to help master your body. And it's what I preached about strength training up until about 2 years ago, where now I strongly believe in incorporating weights and other resistance only as a way to create more bone density. But that's a whole nother story for another topic.
Good stuff.
But catch me later. I may go live again tonight, y'all. Appreciate you again. Peace.
That's up.
That's up.